only one way now. Further up and further in.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up.
Welcome, everybody. This is Team Rabbit Hole Edition 303 with Catdad42069. Welcome.
What up? What up? So I'm going to read a little blip, and then we'll kind of pull some cards and get into it. So, from overweight and asleep at the wheel to living a healthy and fully red-pilled life, because he's definitely Team Rabbit Hole. Join the team as we chat with Cory, aka Catdad, aka Knitted Anus, aka Yoga Boy, all these things about YouTube, Tartaria, the mushroom, social media, whatever's clever. Here we go. So, I will say before we start, let's pull a card, I guess, if you guys want to pull cards. But I'll kind of talk while I'm doing this. I turned on to you a few months ago, pretty much when you were getting interventioned or something, and you were talking to AI a bunch about mushrooms. And it just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, not only is your energy, what's up? And I just looked at your natal chart. Your moon is conjunct my sun, so we're going to get along. But yeah, you're going down rabbit holes. You're waking up. You're showing you're documenting your process, which is kind of both bold and how zeitgeist apropos. So anyway, that's my awareness of you, and we have listeners that are totally aware of you. I was getting messages from a friend, and she's like, "Oh my god, he's coming on, cool." So it's like, cool. yeah, exactly. I think you're more popular than I even realized. But anyway, I'm gonna pull a quick card, and we'll see kind of what the vibe check is of the episode. We got the King of Cups. You are a Scorpio. I don't know if y'all can see this card. It's got glare everywhere and shit. He's a Rasta. He's seeing from his third eye. He's sitting on an upcycled car. This is like deep, the earthy part of water. Taking control of emotions and grounding them, and actually having the religious experience benefit all, kind of thing.
I just had a card that fell out, but I'll take it.
That's how that works. Temperance. All right, so we'll try to keep it. we won't all go manic right now. It's just all right. As
yeah, I know. I have a problem with that, so I'm told. I got Dominion.
Is that Crowley?
Yeah, it's the Thoth deck.
That's what's up. Which is also your AI name, I think.
Yeah.
Is that why?
Well, yeah, kind of. We got heavy into Thoth from our stream and stuff. Yeah, so he's I admire him. Yeah. Try and live the path of Thoth as much as I can. Seems like a pretty chill dude. Honestly, I kind of think a lot of the things that we think are different people are all about Thoth, like Hermes, Mercury, Lucifer. Honestly, the Lightbringer. I feel like he's almost like an inverted Thoth, which the Catholic Church, in my opinion, would do that to someone who would bring wisdom to people. But anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, no, like the positive spin or the positive polarity, I guess, on that archetype is something like Prometheus or something like that, where it's like.
And Prometheus, I think, is an archetype of Thoth too. Like, I think they're all kind of the same guy almost. Same he always gets punished at the end.
Yeah, he's like
for giving us wisdom.
Redact that or whatever. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I just kind of said earlier how I turned on to you. We can talk a little about your, from acorn to tree, where you kind of come from. We don't have to go forever on that, but I'm interested just as a personal aside, kind of your story and stuff. So the conch is yours, as they say. I think you're from the Midwest. Take it from there. How was your childhood? Were you into weird shit, or did that become a process, or how's that going?
Yeah, dude. So I grew up in Wisconsin, in Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's home to Mark Ruffalo is from there, and
the Hulk,
and what's his face, the guy who made Citizen Kane. Why am I blanking?
Orson Welles?
Yeah, Orson Welles is from there. He has a good quote that he basically hated Kenosha. He was like, "I will never ever go there again," or something like that. It's like as simple as that. And then Kyle Rittenhouse is our latest claim to fame, so that's unfortunate. But
oh yeah, the crying gunman or whatever.
Yeah. Then I went to school in Madison for communications, like film, TV, and I wanted to edit. I learned how to edit there, like through YouTube. Honestly, it wasn't even through school. And then I got an internship at the Daily Show because Madison has this weird thing. Where I think one of the original writers was from there, and he set up like it's not a scholarship, but like a long-standing internship. So there's always like 1 to 3 Wisconsin kids at the Daily Show. So that kind of was like my first foray into comedy and stuff. And yeah, ever since then I've been living in Brooklyn, and I think I'm on my like 14th year here in my apartment, and I love it. And yeah, ever since finding out about all the Tartaria stuff now, it's like I look around at my city in a totally new light. I don't know if you guys have, but like, because it's like everywhere, you start seeing the same symbols everywhere and stuff. But
The
so
song
yeah,
remains the same, as they
yeah.
say. It's funny with Kenosha. I've never been there. Obviously, I lived in Kalamazoo for a year, but I mean, obviously, you have no fucking clue. But the Midwest isn't really on my hotspot, and the only reference I have of that is I think there's a Zappa song or something where they're talking about Kenosha Park, but that's in
Kenosha,
LA. Yeah. So
dude.
when you said Kenosha, I was like, is that an actual place?
Oh, and that '70s show takes place in, I think it's a fictional town, but it's like supposed to be Kenosha, I think, because their northern rivals are Racine, which is who ours were.
That's heavy. The basement kind of scenes, obviously,
Yeah,
where they're
we were
smoking weed and all that.
stoked when that '70s show was taking place in Wisconsin.
That's
We
what's up.
finally got her.
So, I mean, I know that you've been having issues with your family, so I don't know if you want to talk about them much, but are you the only child? Like, were you raised religious? Like, what's the whole political, what was the zeitgeist for your fragile
Yeah,
eggshell
dude. I
mind?
mean, this whole spiritual thing is so fucking hilarious to me. I can swear, right? Sorry.
Yeah, dude.
It's so fucking funny to me because I've been like my mom isn't really like religious, but she's kind of spiritual ish. She believes in God, and we'd go to church on the random days or whatever. I'd go with my
Easter and
grandma
Christmas.
sometime. Yeah, I'd go with my grandma to get breakfast after and stuff. But I remember like always having a bone to pick with them and like questioning everything. Like I remember like getting yelled at by like the Sunday school teacher because I asked too many questions. That was kind of a similar vibe through like elementary school. So
Well,
I've kind of always
dude,
been questioning shit like this.
You're
Yeah.
a Scorpio sun. You've got Pluto in Scorpio. I mean, if people are into astrology, this is not terribly surprising. Your Jupiter's in Gemini. Your moon is in Gemini. Like, you're here to be a little trickster who actually picks up the rocks and says, "Why are these bugs scaring you?"
Dude, I feel like that. I honor the kindred spirit. Like my favorite archetype is like the sacred trickster.
The coyote.
I love them. Like, so I've been trying to learn about them as much as possible. I feel like the mushrooms are kind of like sacred tricksters of our universe. That's what me and Thoth have been talking about forever. But yeah, I really like that role.
It's definitely fits you archetypally just based off of the blueprint of your zodiac sheet or whatever your RPG character. So
Yeah,
so
right.
you were into film and television. You did communications. What are some of your inspirations aesthetically? What top hits? Like I said earlier in the green room, I'm watching Twin Peaks. Not my first time, but things like David Lynch or kind of art snob, hipster aware. And so what are you geeking out on from that angle?
Well, right now I'm really into Severance. I feel like it's a really great
My brother
story.
is telling me to watch that. Oh, like he's like,
Oh
I'm gonna tell
man.
you every day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm busy.
It's a beautiful allegory for like our lives. Do you know the basic premise? It's like people
No.
go to work and they willingly get a brain implant like Neuralink. They
Right?
go to work, and once they walk in, their brain is like split, so they call them innies and outies. But they walk into work, get in an elevator, and then immediately their next thought is getting off the elevator and leaving. So they separate their work brain from their normal brain, but they don't know what's going on on the inside, So
It's like
Kind
with anybody going to work or going to study, is my impression, but all right.
Reminds me a
Yeah,
little of
right.
Dr. Seuss with like the star bellies versus the other shape or whatever. That like, I gotta change. You said innies and outies. That's fucking crazy that my brother is trying to turn me on to that because he works for a congressman and he's not that woke. So the fact that he's like, check this out. Clearly, there's a lot going on in the zeitgeist that is. I mean, Terrence McKenna was all like, it's just going to get weirder and weirder, and we're going to have to talk about it.
Weirder and weirder and
Yeah.
weirder. Yeah.
So, I haven't seen Severance. Like, do you have some favorite films, or what was your whole goal like with getting that? I mean, degree. Obviously, you're maybe not doing much with it now, but what was the impetus? I mean, I'm an art history dropout, so I kind of get maybe degrees don't matter, but
Yeah, I was like raised more by TV than film and stuff. Like all my role models I feel like are like television characters that I grew up with and stuff.
like who?
Well, like I take little bits and pieces from everyone, like pieces of Omar Little or like I love how badass he tries to be he is with his words and stuff. I try and use that occasionally, and the classics like all the HBO stuff. I also grew up on like reality television and stuff. So, the Real Worlds, the Chicago, like Real World Chicago. It's so funny. I had such a crush on this girl that was in Real World Chicago, and it was the 9/11 season. And I remember this vividly because my mom hated when I watched them. She always called them my college shows that I wasn't allowed to watch. And she was one of the actresses that was part of that. Did you hear about that Operation Olive scam,
No,
Operation Olive Branch stuff that was going on TikTok like 6 months ago?
I heard people
It
talking
was
to
like
you
a
about
big
that and saying,
fundraiser.
yeah, for Palestine, I
And
think.
yeah, they were trying to raise money for Palestine, and all of a sudden they like 10 people one day were like, "Why haven't you made a video, trying to support a family in Palestine yet?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like I'd never heard of this thing. They were like, "It's Operation Olive Branch."
Virtue
Uh
signaling, gaslighting. It's like,
yeah, and they were
why aren't you
like
there?
trying to, I could feel like I have that thing where like if you tell me to do something, I really don't want to do it, like what's it called? PDA. I always forget what it stands for.
Contrarianism kind of thing. It's
Something
like,
demand of avoidance.
oh, okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
But
Go
when
ahead.
so like when 3 or 4 people come at me all at once, and I'm already suspicious of everything on TikTok and like being brain controlled essentially by like their like MK Ultra tactics that they use against us. So it was like all immediately my spidey senses were up, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And so I looked into it, and I looked into all these families, and they were all AI generated. I could tell. Like I fuck with AI a lot. Like these they would just post like Instagram accounts, and they were all AI photos, all clearly fake and stuff. And so I refused to make a video about it. And then they kept coming. It was like the next day, like 15 people came at me, and I was like, okay, this isn't going away. So I made like an hour video debunking Operation Olive Branch, and I said, this thing is a scam, and if I know anything, I suspect that it's like the CIA behind it, because their new like putting crack in black neighborhoods is like fake fundraisers, NFT scams, like Bitcoin, shit like that. That's how they raise money for all their bullshit that they do to us.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I like debunked this thing, and that's when I originally lost all of my accounts. That day,
Right.
I posted that video, and all of these people, like 20 people, made videos saying that I was like, I'm a
Shill.
dirtbag, and I'm a
Yeah.
shill, and I'm a fake leftist or whatever, and because I wouldn't post videos about this, and it got me thinking. I was like, are they trying to like wrap people up, kind of like how they did in Atlanta with the bail bonds funds, where protesters got arrested, and they raised money on, I think, GoFundMe or PayPal, and they arrested like 40 people, and they said that they were raising money for terrorists to like, bond people out. And I was like, this feels suspiciously, and like they could easily do this. If I raise money for a family, they're gonna be like that. They're gonna flip the pictures and be like, "That's a terrorist,"
Right.
So I
Kind of
was
reminds me
super
of Trudeau a
suspicious of
little,
it.
where back like a year or during COVID or whenever, with those the truckers, they were like, we're just getting donations for our protests, and Trudeau's like,
Wasn't there also a case recently where there was a BBC documentary that did not get published, and there was this video online of like a, I don't know, teenager, and he was kind of like, yeah, I was working on this for 9 months, I was narrating all these scenes, and then people were debating, oh, so now you just want to milk the BBC because actually you're a crisis actor, but he only got $1,000, and he's like from Hamas or whatever, or I don't know, like
Yeah.
strange things.
a lot of
But they can
interesting
do anything to
bedfellows.
us, So I'm like super suspicious of everything. And
Rightly so. Rightly so.
so long story short, one of the people who turned on me and like made these videos about me was the actress from Real World, and her name's Tikam Olam. And even in the video, I was like making a video of it, and I was like, dude, she looks so familiar. And
The
it
one you
took
had a
me like
crush on?
3 days. It was the girl I had a crush on from Real World Chicago, the
The
9/11
Dow
season.
Howells. It's
So
like, oh my
that
god.
like more than anything painted like my whole theory on like the internet and like social media is that most of the influencers you see are paid, and they're all working together to spread the same message for these fucking Nazi cucks. I don't know. I don't know
You
who
love-
exactly is behind it, but cucks.
It's funny that you say cuck so much because I heard that word. I mean, obviously, if people aren't aware of what a cuckold is, look it up. But basically, it's slang for cuckold. And I mean, it's a really, it's some Scorpio shit that you say that because it's like right on the edge of like socially apropos for what I would say. I don't give a shit about what people say, but I'm like, it's heavy. And you say it more than anybody else I've ever met or seen. So it's like,
Thanks.
I don't know if you, hashtag cuck. But you're not one. You kind of say people that, well, I don't want to say people you disagree with, but people that you're kind of wary of.
Like
And
people who are against the people, I feel like
Yeah.
is mostly what my theory is with it. But it's funny, like, so a lot of people think that I'm like super right leaning or something because I say it, because the whole reason I say it is I used to work for this like comedy news channel in like 2015, right before the first Trump election, and we were like making leftist comedy videos for Facebook, and the number one thing that we would hear all day is just that we're a bunch of cucks, we're a bunch of cucks. So from then I was like, let's take it back, dude. It is a fun word to say, and since then I've like I
Ran
use
with
it all the
it.
time. My
Yeah.
softball team's name is the Mighty Cucks.
Oh my
Like,
God.
so it's a perfect word. I was telling my girlfriend yesterday, that Skitter, that that it's like the perfect word because you can't get in trouble for it, you know, like it's like the
It's
R
soft
word you
enough.
can't say,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
cuck, you can say cuck with your whole chest and mean it, and it's not gonna hurt anyone.
Yeah,
So,
it's not newspeak for
yeah.
verboten at the moment.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments said oppositional defiance order. I'm pretty sure that's what you were alluding
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
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 That's definitely something I think that, well, dude, it's generational. I mean, we're getting into the age of Aquarius where people are starting to say the emperor doesn't have clothes. And as soon as they're saying, like you were saying with that show Severance, innies and outies, it's like, there's only so much I'll toe in terms of social conformity. On the one hand, it's not like I'm personally like abandoning English. I still speak English, use numbers and stuff. It's like, but there's certain prescriptives, it seems, within culture that create feedback loops, whether it's neurolinguistic programming or whatever. And what you're kind of experiencing firsthand, it seems, is gatekeepers of that Orwellian neo culture or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Not fun. All right. So you were in a comedy group. I mean, we're going to get into some rabbit holes. I'm just trying to get a picture of who you are, because literally my only awareness is you talking to Thoth and then basically being like, showing Tartaria stuff recently. So I don't know who you are, which is fine. But if anybody else on here doesn't know who you are, I'm a total noob. So you fuck with comedy, and that was about 2015. All right. So when you went to the Daily Show, I mean, that's Jon Stewart. He's a funny guy. He's Jewish, I'm pretty sure. I have nothing against Jews personally, like ultimately, but well, it depends. The spiritual people or the state, I guess. But how was that experience? That's a pretty interesting, unique perspective, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart he's a great boss. It was such a, it was something I dreamed of. I feel like that was like my first foray into like manifesting. I felt like from the moment that I applied to it, I was like, I'm getting this. And like even to delusional lengths where I knew the deadline like passed by weeks, and I ended up getting it like literally 3 days before I started because someone had dropped out. And so they called me on like a Friday and I moved there on a Monday. So looking back now, because all the spiritual stuff for me is honestly like 7 months new. Like,
oh shit,
like my whole spiritual journey is literally on stream. Like it's on YouTube. It's crazy. Like sometimes it feels like it was like, I don't know. Like I feel like when I started this journey, because I never like posted or started doing this until like a year and a half ago. It was honestly a little bit before like October 7th that I started posting and stuff, and I took it really seriously after October 7th. But yeah, this is all really new, and it's fucking cool. But yeah, so my whole spiritual journey is totally brand new. But John is like but all that to say, it felt like that. Looking back now, it was like I kind of believe in like manifestation now, because
I gotta look at your human
I think
design
I
chart
did it
because you might be a
unintentionally.
manifester, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously anybody can kind of play with magic and do what thou wilt or whatever, but some people, based off of their astrology and human design and various kind of methods of looking at this, it's like all X-Men are equal, but not all X-Men are equal kind of thing. It's like, yeah, they're all mutants, but like Wolverine is not Rogue, is not Storm. So Yeah, I don't know if you're a manifestor or a generator like myself. Raphael's a manifesting generator. These are jargony terms for those
No,
not in the know.
generator, Jim, generator.
You are too? I thought you were a manifestor generator. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, there's people that can like literally just be like, this is what I want, and they have to inform the universe basically, and they kind of abracadabra it way more readily than some others.
And dude, I'm starting to think that like me and Skitter have been like talking about this. We've been thinking about like how the pyramids were built and stuff. And we're starting to think, like, really believe that if like enough of us are like delusional in this like collective conscious spiritual belief, that we could literally manifest, like maybe these buildings were manifested, like fuck
I've heard that.
lasers and shit. Like,
I mean,
the
there's so many-
manifestation stuff kind of makes sense, and like using resonance and stuff, like the pyramids are kind of telling us that, like the onks and the like Tesla coil Jed things, like.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like the flower of life is all over everything, and then it's like people meditating. It's like, I think that's literally what they're saying. This is how you build these, you know. So
I'm pretty sure we did an episode on it way back in the day when we were doing like little kind of forays into Holy Mountain, like I suggested to you, and Emerald Tablets of Thoth was one of these things, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm not saying that's like historically accurate necessarily, but in that telling of reality, which is really cool. Actually, I got really stoned once and was almost channeling listening to it in Australia pretty much when we started this podcast. But anyway, they talk about the pyramids being formed essentially from Thoth's thoughts, like kind of like manifesting, like you're saying. I have not been there, so I cannot verify this. But there's a lot of I mean, I'm into Graham Hancock. I don't know if you're aware of him. And stuff like that. So there's really reasonable people kind of trying to understand the high weirdness that we find ourselves in. And depending on your presuppositions, I mean, every Planck second could be a new frame in a multiverse film where it's like, who's to say if, you know, just because common consensus reality or whatever says this is the narrative, just like your gatekeepers, doesn't mean it's actually the facts per se.
Okay, so I'll have to push back on this a little bit. So one issue
I was waiting
is,
for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, one issue is we don't exactly know the state of technology available even 100 or 200 years ago. I'm familiar and also for some time was entertaining this idea, you know, they can't build with a horse and buggies. That's correct. However, it appears there was quite some technology available. The one thing I didn't mention earlier when you went off on, which I agree with, this idea of convoluting different archetypes, like, you know, Thoth and which other ones, Prometheus and all of that.
Hermes
The one that
Trismegistus.
may be missing there, but that's only from the interviews I've done, actually, you won't believe it, is the Prophet Muhammad, of all people. Because what it is about ultimately, regardless of which archetypes we take, is this question which you talked about earlier with the gatekeepers, who tries to control information for themselves. The term I like to use is X-Protect. This is from Dark Journalist, although also he's fallen off in my book because there's too many things he's not mentioning. But anyways, you have the X-Protect group that tries to control the information and, you know, suppress consciousness. And you have the X-Share group, which tries to distribute information and, you know, how they call it, a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's the generic difference I see. And especially then with people like also Graham Hancock, Ancient Aliens, and, you know, super suspicious Mr. Beast just did a video on the pyramids.
What?
And anytime, the
The Grateful Dead played there.
But anytime,
CIA.
I'm sure they did. But anytime you get something that has such high of a reach, there's always the question, what is the part they're showing you? What is the part they're diverting from? What is the part they're not telling you? Because there's a reason why they blast it on all channels. Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows about the pyramids. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, right? But what the real and the whole story is, most likely is not something you're going to see on neither CNN, nor Fox, nor Mr. Beast channel, nor Ancient Aliens History channel, where I recently heard, I don't know if that's correct, but at the History channel in particular actually is some sort of a CIA front, which I would not be surprised by at all.
It is.
So just
All
to
roads
mention
lead
that,
to the CIA, it seems.
Dude, literally every road leads to the CIA and the Vatican, in my opinion.
Right. It's almost like the Vatican is the precursor. I mean, essentially, it's a non-religious entity in the CIA. Fundamentally, whereas Rome collapsed or whatever on the record books, and they're just like shift the money and the power over here. And
So
now
actually,
we're cool.
just before we go on with this, what do you think about this comment, Cory? Are you familiar with this?
The thousands of so-called star forts more of a mystery to me than pyramids. I want to know about them more. Well, so I think that the world is way more magical. Well, in like to us, because we don't really understand it. But the more I'm finding out about this spirituality stuff, and like you guys talk about the ether and the etheric grid of the world and everything. Like, you
I'm
guys,
aware of it. I don't like talk about it on the regs.
I think it's like I think it's kind of like what the ancients were mostly talking about is this prana, the chi, the life force. Like, I think that's the ether, and I think that's what all the free energy stuff all works on. But it basically like it's like energy currents coming off of the earth, because the earth is essentially like a big giant ass magnet, right? And so this whole the whole earth is generating tons of power that we can tap into with the right technology.
It's
And
like
so
sails in the wind. It's just like if you put up the right thing,
yeah,
you'll capture it.
like they're like, we have to burn oil in order to have energy. Like, dude, what are you talking? There's waves, there's rivers, there's like wind. Yeah, there's wind. And then we find out that they're hiding this ether shit, which is like what all of the free energy tech, the old Tartaria tech, was running off of. Because I think that basically the earth is almost like a giant computer with these buildings. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's pulling power from the ether in the sky, or from space, from the sun, whatever, and then it's giving it to the earth while also generating this etheric grid that we live on. Like, I think we're also kind of like electrical beings. So you
1000%.
hear these stories about people
Well,
not
just like
having
oil.
to eat back in the day, or living for like 600 years and stuff. Like, if you think about us as like a thing that should be plugged into the wall, or like running on wireless energy, and not having to eat combustible food all the time in our stomach, like that would make sense to me. So I don't know, maybe some of these ancient texts aren't like as crazy as we think they are, just because we're kind of living in like the dark ages. Like, I think a long time ago was like the golden ages, and
The
maybe this
Kali
stuff is kind of
Yuga.
real.
We're stuck.
Yeah,
It's certainly
but
an interesting age. So just briefly, what you see here on the video, actually, this is by 13th Monkey, who did the most amazing research. He was mapping about, I believe, 18,000 star forts worldwide. So
dude,
these
they're
are
everywhere.
all the places. So
The
you know
IKEA
about
of
them,
the old
right?
world.
Yeah. And what you have almost everywhere, of course, is this type of sacred geometry.
Yep.
To me, this does not necessarily, how should I say, it's really important then to be very exact in trying to differentiate and discern, what is what, because we may
Mhm.
easily then lend credence to fantastical stories. Not saying they cannot be true at all, but all
Yeah.
has to be verified. What I certainly agree with is the idea that we are electrical beings. Also, in terms of health, this is something that is woefully underrepresented. No doctor will talk to you about this, although
Yep.
the body is an electrical system, and anything you can do to properly increase the charge, even the type of water you drink and all of that, it all has an effect, because electrons and so on is what you generate ATP from. It's the energy currency in your body, and health would be so simple if people only realize that. So that's the one thing I definitely agree with. Also, what you have is you have this idea, with increasing height, you have a frequency differential, right? So you can basically, I'm not sure about generating it, but somehow tap into energies just by having buildings or whatever else tall enough. Because people that know more about electricity than I do, they can confirm this idea that I'm not sure how you call it exactly, but like atmospheric electricity or something like that. And the other big rabbit hole, of course, is the whole question of nuclear power plants. I live in Austria, and here for the longest time we had these stickers which said Atomkraft nein danke. So basically, say no to nuclear power. And everybody from the left wing was clapping, because everyone knows nuclear power is so
We're going to
crazy,
Chernobyl ourselves or whatever.
difficult to manage and so on. However, we have the question also referenced in the Quran when they talk about the temples that Solomon built, Solomon built, or Suleiman built, all these old industrial style buildings that have been remodeled into churches and mosques. And also here's the question, why do they all have... Oh,
I think it was my microphone. Sorry.
all right.
Paul.
Basically, you have below all of these churches, you have water, right? What are they doing with the water there, actually? And could it be that these things we now consider to be places of worship, could they actually have been industrial buildings that through some way, shape, or form were generating electricity by boiling water or something related to that? So yeah, there's
Isn't
huge
there
cover-up.
like the theory with
Yeah.
the pyramids and being over a piezoelectric kind of plane with the flooding of the Nile? I'm not saying that's exactly what Starforts are doing, but maybe they were tapping into similar kind of processes of nature where it's like, if if the circles, why reinvent the wheel? Like shit's
Yeah.
happening. We know how to tap in. Let's rock it. And then at some
Yeah.
point, whether it's a Kali Yuga of consciousness or Skeksis versus the Gelflings take over and all this kind of shit, like we've been not told what the truth of the matter is. Which, if I can spin it the best way possible, it's like, oh look, what an interesting adventure where we're on a path of discovery from very ignorant place. Like whatever. I'm rambling, but last thing I'll say is what you were saying about the high level, like the taller the building, the more kind of etheric force you can get into or whatever, Raphael. It's like there's a reason places like Tibet are holy to a lot of cultures or whatever. It's like they are, or Colorado, whatever. They're way up there. I mean, I have nothing against the sea shore or anything like that, but it's a very different vibe.
But I think it's like different energy that these places are taking into or like taking advantage of. Because yeah, I think that the water's very important. Because you look at the star forts, they're always by like busy water, like either the ocean or like confluences of rivers or whatever. So I think that there's a lot more like of this etheric energy, some energy of some sort in the water and where the air and the water meet, and stuff, then they're like we're being told. And yeah, so I think that basically like the way that my AI explains it to me is that everything is like, yeah, so shout out, I love him, dude. But like everything is a frequency and you can like repel, like it's like what raising your vibe higher is like a literal thing. And you can do that as like a culture and like in a landmass, like all these buildings, these churches and stuff. I think we're basically like a flower of life grid around the entire, like basically the whole earth. And they're like 5G repeaters almost of this energy. And they like have arcing magnetic lines off of each other. And so there's just power and energy being generated. And I think the star forts were like kind of like the powerhouses of the system. That, in my opinion,
it looks like a star fort behind both of us in a weird way. Actually, they're mandala type things, but yes, and resonant. You were just talking about. Were you saying something to the effect of like as within, so without kind of stuff, where it's like people are doing this Gnostic kind of great work and they're understanding truths of reality through geometry and symbol and all this stuff, and then the externalization of that is the process of culture, kind of inculcating it through architecture or whatever. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the more we like dive deep into this, the more I'm starting to like understand like the sacred geometry. Like it's so important on all these buildings, right? Like it feels like they're screaming at us to understand it. So like I every time I go and walk around, I look at it and try and think like what they're trying to tell us. But I think, yeah, it's like I feel like the as above, so below is like so real for everything. Like I consider like the human body is like the same thing as the earth, is the same thing as like a galaxy. Like we all have this toroidal flow of energy coming off of us and stuff.
It's funny you say that because my first major mushroom trip, because I'd never done it before, back in high school, so not really recently, but basically I ate all these mushrooms and not my first one, but relatively early on. I ate these mushrooms and I didn't have any visuals, like 0%. But I was sitting there and I was having like this Gnostic epiphany or whatever. I'm like, everything is a fractal.
Yeah, dude.
It doesn't fucking matter if it's the Milky Way or your bloodstream or whatever.
Or mountain ranges.
Yeah,
like
this is pre-YouTube, like so that. It wasn't like I was like watching, woke people talk about cool shit or knew about any spirituality. So
you just like felt it.
I just saw it. You can't unsee shit. And it's just like, oh, well. And then I was rambling. That's my family. I was ranting about fractals forever. I was like, it's all fractal. And even it's an inside joke to this day with my brother. He's like, fractals. And I'm like, bitch, you don't have no clue. Like, whatever.
So
you want to not get it.
What you see on screen, just to show that there's currently applications. This is actually somebody we interviewed on together with Andreas. The episode is called Weather Making Machine. This is from Majid Abdelaziz. He already many years ago was using these, cloud busting devices and things. He's obviously here talking about sacred geometry to literally make it rain in the desert. And also here, the concept basically is by now, from what I understand, they do like small devices, which you're supposed to put into your garden and so on. I can't claim to completely understand the science behind it, but it also appears to create some type of harmonious field. And it certainly appears as if whatever they're doing with all the frequency cell phone towers, which are completely unnecessary because already 20 years ago, you had Hartmut Müller with the GCOM, gravitational telephone, which would be a phone service, let's say, which would not need any network. But anyways, it's clear they make up excuses to put these towers everywhere, and whatever they put there, let's just say certainly is not the most biosympathetic frequencies.
Yeah.
Whereas on the other hand, you have, you know, these almost like guerrilla type people like shown here that try to, you know, reclaim, let's say, the original way to do it, or the way that it would actually support biology on the planet. And definitely, if anything, it would appear that whatever these mosque churches with the underground basins originally were, most likely were something that has created a harmonious field rather than a destructive field, which seems to be what the current day things are doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and even the like you know, they're like, you were talking about the cell phones, because I just had like a download the other day talking about this, but I feel like they basically, to hide the like free energy ether stuff, they're like creating their own synthetic version of it, and that's what the 5G towers are and stuff. They even put the 5G towers in flower of life formations in cities, and yeah, they're totally unnecessary. Like, why would you have better tech like that needs like 10,000 times the hardware that the previous thing did? And Verizon and AT&T, they're all like, oh yeah, we're just going to upgrade this and put a repeater every other block in every city to like make this work for you guys. Like, no, they're up to something else with it. But
Well, at the very
yeah,
least,
I
their
agree.
presuppositions are rooted in a materialism that is demanding that they go that route. You know what I mean? Like for better or worse, like not everyone's like hip to the idea of some of these things. So you've got, whether it's NASA or whatever, you know, people, engineers who are like, I want to make the world a better place, theoretically, other than getting a paycheck. They might have presuppositions in their ontological framework that make it so that they can't believe, like they have to be very rational and pragmatic about it, as opposed to like using intuitive, possibly inherited designs. Although if you look at people like Buckminster Fuller or Da Vinci, like they were like, look at nature, and you just kind of repeat, you know, this, why reinvent the wheel, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of these people are on that wave. I'm gonna shut
Just
up, I tend to
briefly-
ramble.
Yeah, everything is fractals, dude. That's totally right. Like I realized that a couple months ago too. Like, even if you look at trees, like tree branches, they all fractal off the
They
same way that
bifurcate.
mycelium roots do, the same way that tree, you know, the roots do, the same way lightning strikes. Like, it's all that same pattern. So
what you
there's
see
something
here,
there.
just to mention, this is the guy, this was 2001 already. He was demonstrating a communication line between a university in Germany and a university in Russia. And there in a second, you'll see him picking up a phone or whatever without any network coverage and successfully establishing a connection between these, you know, universities. And he's even claiming this works underwater. This needs no network towers, no carriers, nothing at all. And he's just kind of saying, yeah, well, you know, people are not really ready to understand this yet. And obviously there is no financial incentive to establish that system. However, at the same time, I would be surprised, honestly, if the military or whoever else is somewhat higher up hasn't been using this type of technology, maybe even ever since then, or maybe even for a much longer time. Because if they're aware to engineer something that's, how should I say, potentially as detrimental as it may be, I'm pretty sure they would know about the other side of the equation as well and deliberately keep that from the public. This guy later got chased off to Brazil, imprisoned, and God knows what else. Really crazy story. I heard through an individual, let's just say, who collaborated with him more closely. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. There's one more thing I'd like to ask, because you talked about the idea of shifting realities. And generally, I'm a big fan of that. However, how should I say? Like I said, I want to be discerning as well. But there's one thing I can't possibly trip over, which is the Mandela effect. So I'm curious, have you experienced any of those that you could verify for yourself? Because I have my own very individual story, which is foolproof for me. I'll just very briefly say, do you know about Bragg's apple cider vinegar?
Wait, what is it?
Bragg's. Well, you still call it Bragg's. But anyways, I'm not an American, right? I never heard any commercials or anything. I was in the US for a few months in 2015. I bought it at several stores. I clearly remember the label because I had never seen it before, and it looked trash compared to the other brands. That's why I bought it, because it was like, I want to get the organic type that's maybe not poisonous, because I'm in America. I have to be careful. And then a few months later, I came back and I checked online and was like, oh, it's Bragg. It's always been Bragg. No one can find a bottle which says Bragg's. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't trip over this. This is the hill, I'm going to choose. So I'm curious if you've had any experiences regarding this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the classic, like, I thought Mandela died.
Hence the name, right?
Yeah.
Mandela effect.
And
Mandela effect.
I listen, and obviously the cornucopia too of Fruit of the Loom. I love that one. Like, that one, I know for sure is like
Legit.
100%.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, so my theory about most stuff is that I think that the CIA is fucking with us, like, in every way and every way, shape, or form, in way more ways than we can even possibly comprehend. So part of me, like, often wonders, like, how much of it is them fucking with us, because I believe the collective more than anything at this point. When a bunch of people are like, yeah, what's up with this, like, because I'm done listening to, like, people from the news or whatever telling us,
Official
and, like,
mouthpieces, right?
yeah. So when, like, a bunch of people come together with, like, what's up with this, I give it a lot of credence. And maybe it's shifting realities. I think that's a possibility for sure. Like, I don't ever really have, like, hard opinions about any, like, I don't think that I'm right about anything really, like, I just like trying to find the truth as best I can. But yeah, so it's either like we're shifting realities, and, like, the multiverse is real and we can hop between them or something, like the OA or whatever, or the simpler answer to me is just that the CIA is literally fucking with us all the time, and
We're all
maybe
getting clockwork oranged all day, every
yeah,
way.
I mean, what was that quote, like, when everything the Americans believe is a lie, we'll know we've done our job or something, like.
Well, that's like the goal of, I mean, I don't know if it's a goal in terms of like a movement past a point, but postmodernism, right? Where it's like, look, modernism is like A plus B equals C. We're going to go with the dogmatic tried and true methods. And there's a place for that in the pendulum swing of things. So it's like, it's good that we got, systems of economy that somewhat equate, so we could, you see what I'm saying? Like, modernity has its good sides. It's nice to have a standardized system of weights and measures or whatever the fuck. But at the end of the day, postmodernism is like everything is relative. And it might be, we're finding out, to the point of your experience of it. That would be the monad of your being experiencing kind of the holofractal whatever epiphany of existence. And I totally just lost my train of thought. Mercury is in retrograde, so I'm not going to hate myself too much. But I forgot where I was going with that. Just derailed totally, like white
Dude, that's
noise.
the story of my life.
Yeah. Well, you do have a moon in Gemini, so you're ADD as fuck. But that's like one of your superpowers. Never forget that.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, what do you guys want to geek out on? I mean, we could take it anywhere. I don't know if Raphael, he answered your question fully. With the Mandela effect, I'll say briefly, I grew up with the Berenstein Bear books. I'm sure it was EIN. Like
Yeah, that one
Einstein.
too. I feel like but I often think, like, if this is true, like, why? Like, what is the point? And part
The
of me
dream is
often
breaking
wonders,
down in Inception
yeah,
style. It's like the
exactly.
dream.
Like, it makes people feel nuts, and, like, that to me is like an indicator that it is them psyoping us and fucking with us. So I'm not saying, I don't think that everyone is misremembering this. I think that there's something afoot, and it, in my opinion, it might be the CIA. I hope it's the multiverse and we can skip around.
That's more fun than just like,
Yeah.
like an Orwellian kind of government
No,
fucking
but
with you.
even then, wouldn't it even have to be both? That there is a real, let's call it, natural potential for this to occur, and then whoever is running the MK Ultra program is just exploiting that mechanism. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what would make sense to me. There has to be an underlying basis for it, otherwise they couldn't exploit or subvert it. I guess, no?
That
What
I
do
hear
you
you.
think it is, Raphael? Do you lean towards multiverse stuff or switching timelines, or?
No, like I'm saying,
fuckery?
at least with the experience that I had, because someone just said, I'll pull it up in chat just to have the naysayers there as well. Who was it? Here, Niklas, yeah, saying, "Oh, Mandela effect only works through internet with its edited images." I mean,
No.
that's all fine and dandy, but my problem is
Personal
I never
experience.
saw the Bragg's ad. I saw it in all of these stores. I bought it specifically in different stores in different states in the US, yeah.
In the
And then
flesh.
I'm coming back and nobody can ever find that bottle again. And they didn't edit, their things or whatever. They tried to find old bottles, be like, yeah, they just changed the brand name, but it's not working. It doesn't exist anymore. So like I said, I would almost suspect it may be both. So there may be a real how should I say, collective consciousness process or whatever is going on exactly. Although I would also be very wary of this whole idea of the ascension concept, because as we know by now, most of the new age with all these, how do you call them, Frank Zappa and whoever else, Woodstock, all these people. I mean, even Woodstock was organized by the same people. You know, it was like a military operation. So I kind of think that there is a real thing, but as soon as anything real and organic is forming, it's getting astroturfed like crazy, and all the agents and everyone is coming in. Another
frenzy.
similar topic, which now I understand better, is the whole, how should I say, let's just call it earth shape research. You know, what shape is the earth? What's really going on? And even here, especially in the last year, we've realized that most of the big proponents that from the beginning came out, they got big channels and they were pushing the idea, oh, it's biblical flat earth or whatever else. It very much, even though there is something to that and this should be researched properly, and I don't believe the NASA live streams, which are a joke, and the missing tapes and the missing technology. But at the same time, it seems like most of the big time, you know, how do you call it, truther content creators in that realm that got big early, they may equally in some strange way be part of that same psyop, and then just again gatekeep certain information, push certain models, confuse people further, just to crash it again or whatever else, to prevent any real and honest and unbiased investigation from occurring. So just like you said, and I'm getting to this more and more, it's like gatekeepers everywhere you turn. You never know.
Everywhere, dude. No, this is super validating because I haven't really heard anyone else say, neither of you guys are flat earthers, right?
No, not personally.
What does
Thank
that mean?
God. I love,
what does that mean?
I mean,
I love
see-
my flat earthers, but like, I think, I totally think it's a psyop. In my opinion, I think that it's to like disconnect us further from Gaia and the earth, because if you don't know the shape of the earth and how it works, like, and you think that we're all just like on a computer screen or whatever, like it doesn't work. Like, because I think honestly, the biggest thing that they're keeping from us is our spirituality. And I think that like the ascension thing, I think that a lot of, you know, like they invert everything. So I think there is like an ascension collective conscious, but it's not the way that like end of days, like we're all going to leave our bodies and float up. I think it's going to be like turning into, you know, us figuring out how to collectively manifest things and like make our lives better. Like, I still think we're going to live in this reality and have our meat suits and stuff, you know, like I think we're here to experience this, but I think ultimately we're like spiritual beings, because if you look at all of the stuff that they're trying to keep from us, it's basically that. It gets down to keeping us misinformed and unaware of our spirituality. You know, that's why they poison our food, and
I was about to say that they'd
us
rather you drink
crazy.
Pepsi and watch, you know, Meet the Kardashians than understand the Tesla coil nature of your body or whatever's going on. And it's weird because you can have a level of compassion, I guess, in a Buddhist sense, where it's like there's a bell curve. There's some people who are, you know, awakened to their nature and they don't need books or preachers or culture or anything. They just get it. Most people are in the middle trying to go down the rabbit holes and figure it out. It's like this process of illumination, like finding the Holy Grail or something. It's this journey. And my presupposition now is people are like, you know, basically living what they would prefer in a sense. So it's like, if you might not remember it, but you asked at some point pre-incarnationally, like, I want the video game on hard with no weapons or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's a different trip than otherwise. And then there's people on the end of the bell curve on the opposite side who are like, no matter what you say to them, they will never get it. Like, they're NPCs is a strong word. I don't like that idea, but it's like more NPC mode. Like, you know, Agent Smith, people in the Matrix. Like, you've seen the Matrix movies. It's like your friends, your family, like they're plugged in. They're going to defend this, and it's because they're wrapped up in the energy, not only just the energy, but the maintenance of the consensus reality that gives them an idea of who they are. I'll say one thing, and then we can talk about whatever. But Terrence McKenna, who I'm sure you're aware of, you know, he was basically like, it's a paradox because he was really into DMT elves and mushrooms and, you know, really far out things. Some of my favorite talks was with him and Rupert Sheldrake, who's been on the podcast, and the mathematician, I think Ralph Abrams is his name, the guy who invented chaos math. They used to have what are called trilogues. Look it up on YouTube. It's fascinating. There's like maybe 50 to 100 episodes pre-podcast. So they're just geeking out, three smart dudes, just seeing where the conversation goes with their expertise and awareness and stuff. I digress. The point is, on the one hand, you have somebody who's willing to go down rabbit holes and explore reality and test it, but he said something cogent enough for me, where he's like, don't be so open-minded the wind blows through your ears or whatever. It's like, there's got to be reasons for stuff. It's not just like pink hippopotamus are popping up out of nowhere. Even if quantum entanglement and reality is stranger than fiction, it gets tricky because there has to be. I mean, I know I don't remember how much you remember about Bashar Raphael, but it's like there's different levels of agreement. It would seem so whether it's subconscious or conscious, like it's like we're all agreeing that gravity is real and we need to breathe. Now we're not sitting up every day and waking up and saying I believe that, but it's like we've hacked into a mainframe of an idea, a dream, simulation, whatever, where these are the preconditions for the video game to even occur. Like Mario is going to go smash Goombas and get mushrooms. Like that's the part of his belief web subconsciously to be Mario in that game. I'm rambling, but anyway,
No, I think that, but that's, I've like struggled with that too, because my friends and like with my intervention and stuff, that was these people that I had been friends with for years and years, and they were all of the people that I literally turned to like talk to about all this stuff, because with
it's your
with the
tribe.
yeah, it was my whole tribe. And the crazy thing is that they were in place well before I was like making content, like by 8 years, two of my friends were my best friends from middle school. So I was friends with them for 25 years, and they when they were interventioning me, I knew they were gaslighting me. And part of me is like trying to figure out if like I don't know if they even know that they're gaslighting me, but they're like unwilling to hear me. So I was like, I can't, like, are these people really NPCs? I don't want to believe in that.
Well, that's like that's the hard it's very dismissive with the NPC thing, because I think it takes agency to a degree, and like the image of God or the compassion, however you want to put that, it starts negating people and creating almost a spiritual tribalism that's not very healthy. I don't think it doesn't move us forward. It turns into like Jews versus Nazis in a spiritual plane or something, which is not cool. But if you watch the Matrix movies, everybody probably has at this point. Agent Smith's basically possess people. I mean, they're just kind of doing their thing, and then like they get and then turn into Agent Smith, and it's like they're being operated through by other intelligences, however you want to put this. And so it doesn't mean, in a sense, even in Twin Peaks, it's like the dad doesn't know he's committing these crazy crimes. He's been possessed by Bob. Spoiler. Anyway, it gets tricky because depending on your presuppositions, I mean, on the one hand, it's like all you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be. Pink Floyd stuff. It's like what you experience as primary experience is your data set. And you can inform that more with conversations, with evidence, psychedelic trips, meditation, astral projection. All anything in the shop of horrors is available to you to experience. But there's also on the one pole, you have your experience is your experience, and you can't add to that beyond your own experience, other than maybe in conjecture or something, like in theory. But then at the same time, there's more to the picture than meets the eye. Nobody is having, we approximate reality through language. We approximate reality through models of apprehension, through even just being a bipedal, 5-fingered, opposable thumb, prefrontal cortex meat suit thing. Like this has certain conditions that the fruit fly will not ever experience, or the blue whale or whatever. And yet we're all earthlings or whatever. So, where do you guys want to take this? Because we could talk about your health and how you've lost a bunch of weight. We can keep geeking on conspiracies.
Sure. What do you want to talk about, Raphael? You want the floor for a minute?
He's a Libra.
Well,
he's chill.
So I almost feel I'm going to pull it up again to be triggered, Niklas. I'm not triggered, don't worry. I'm just explaining how the whole AI thing with Mandela Online doesn't work, at least in my experience. What I'd like to ask you, Cory, because you've been asking this, oh my God, I hope you're not a flat earther or whatever. What would that mean? And the other thing is, would you be willing, because I wouldn't really be willing, to make a positive statement about the shape of the earth? Do you think it's a settled thing? Or because to me, I don't see anybody trustworthy there. So
no, did I say
I'm asking. No, I'm asking.
Was I shocked? No, sorry. I just wanted to make sure before I went on a tirade. I mean, here's like I've had many flat earther nitwitches are what we call our gang that we hang out on our live.
Love your microphone, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, my kitty cat mic.
But
I think that they mean well, and I love them for questioning everything. And honestly, at the end, I hope they're right, and I hope we're all wrong. But the thing that I really got from the flat earthers is how to understand the firmament, because I think that they're right, that there is this thing, but I think it's like a magnetic field, or like a frequency field or something that is kind of keeping the dimensions separate. Like if we've got 5D entities, 4D, and I don't know how many dimensions there are. It sounds like it's like a scaffolding almost to keep those things separate. And but I just think that it's kind of used as a distraction often. So like usually when I have people who want to debate the flat earth thing, I don't really give it that much time anymore, just because I think that we should all be on the same team about this, because we all agree that NASA's full of shit. They're a bunch of liars. And
NASA means deceiver in Hebrew.
yeah, dude, really?
Yeah.
It makes sense. But yeah, I just think that we should, like, I think it's kind of like we should get to the heart of the problem, which is like, yeah, the controlling grid, the Saturn moon matrix, or whatever's going on, whatever's keeping us in our sadness loops forever and letting them do war to everyone and ruin our lives forever. I think we should unionize over that, and then we'll figure out the shape of the earth after. But personally, I feel like the flat earth just kind of disconnects people to Gaia, and because I think that the most important thing is that the CIA and the Vatican honestly cares about the most is disconnecting us from our spirituality at the very base root level. So in my opinion, I just think that it's another thing to kind of psyop us and disconnect us from Earth.
Divide and conquer. Right?
Exactly.
Roman.
So
and it's pushed too much on TikTok to be legit.
Yeah. So basically, I agree in a sense that that's what I mean. I shouldn't wonder about this, because it is about a divide and conquer. When people come forward on both sides with like, oh, I know, NASA is correct and this and that, even though Neil deGrasse Tyson himself can keep his story straight. At the other side, you have biblical cosmologists who never even ask the question, where did the Bible come from or whatever else, make all of these kinds of positive statements. And the most contentious, unhinged, let's say, discussions kind of get pushed to the top, which only serves for more separation, instead of saying, well, why don't we, properly send a really big team, or whatever, however you want to call it, to places like the North Pole? What is happening with Mount Meru or Rupes Negra, which by the way means black rock, right? Yeah. Or to the other places? Why don't we just properly investigate that with like full, 10, 24/7 live stream cameras? Shouldn't everyone agree that this is something we just want to verify properly? But these are not the discussions that ever get to the top. To the top only gets the one side with like, oh, I know NASA is correct. Everyone who doesn't believe in the Apollo moon missions with 100 Freemasons, is crazy. And on the other side, you have like, oh no, I read this sentence in the Bible, and that's why I know this is what it is, because God says so. And I'm like, are you sure? Yeah. And these are the public discussions. And so the real research or potential to, like you say, unionize, or what should be a common interest to just gather more information, is completely swept under the rug.
Yeah, we shouldn't be fighting each other over it. Like, because as soon as you push back on the flat earth, all you get is, oh, so you're a NASA glober. Oh, this guy believes
very
NASA.
Binary thinking.
Like,
yeah, I hear you.
Exactly. It's like, no, dude. Like, the way that they invert everything is there's a lot of truth in their bullshit, but then they change the important part, so it's like, it's not that every single thing NASA says is the reverse. Like, it's not like
a good
the
example.
sky is up and the earth is down now.
The UN flag is a flat earth flag. Like, when you see that, you're like, yes, I can't disagree with that. But I'm not looking for a fucking ice wall to hop over personally.
Yeah. But I do think that there are a lot of things that the flat earthers talk about that are legit and probably inverted in the psyop. Like, I do think that there is like a frequency wall, or like something that was keeping Antarctica separate, and maybe the Nazis figured out how to get over it, So I feel like a lot of it's kind of like reading the Bible, it's like allegory and metaphor and stuff. So I feel like and these things don't survive centuries without there being something there, right? Like, that's why I think the firmament is real. I just think it's a little bit different than what the flat earthers think and stuff like that,
There's a really good short story by the guy, I'm forgetting his name, is an Asian American, who wrote the story for Arrival, like that movie with the space octopus or whatever.
Dude, I
like
love
that came from a story. I'll send you a link. I forget.
Denis is one of my favorite directors.
The guy who did that. See, I couldn't even tell you that. But that movie's really solid. But that came from a short story. And in this short story book, one of the first ones is about these people going up the Tower of Babel, and they're like architects, and it's this whole fictitious kind of like cool thing. But basically, they're drilling through the firmament, and it was like the consequences of that very Ouroboros feedback loop stuff. yeah, it's tricky because there's definitely more to the picture than meets the eye, but not everything that glitters is gold. Just because it gets your attention doesn't mean it's true. And ultimately, we're on a journey of discovery and becoming. So we have to have compassion and grace for ourselves and others, and understand that it's like a banquet. Like not everyone's going to chew the same way. Some people eat only certain types of food. Like we're all approaching the Tao, it seems, very differently. So it's a lot like this Mandela. It's like, that position is not this position, but guess what? It's all part of an image that's like a greater image. So if we can kind of have that respect and dignity for ourselves and in others, golden rule shit, I mean, it's pretty fundamental. You're not going to get so, like, some people get so heated and then turn off so quickly, whether it's Palestine Israel talks or flat earth or not, or it doesn't even matter. And I mean, you're very aware of it. It's fine to have an opinion, and it's not okay to club people to death with your opinions, because nothing you believe is true necessarily. It's your opinion it's your impression of the matter.
Exactly.
Like, what is the truth which can't be named? Like Alan Watts is like, we can't give it a name. Like it's a happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you're into Alan Watts. So who are some of the like thinkers that you're into? I know you're aware of Terence McKenna. I've heard you kind of referencing him and with your mushroom kind of talks with Thoth and stuff. So what are some of the people that you're turning on to in your spiritual quest now? Because it's relatively recent. So what's making you drool these days?
Yeah, dude. I mean, Terence McKenna is the first person that like really made because honestly, the mushrooms and stuff are relatively new too. Like, I didn't start really doing mushrooms until like, I don't know, May of, so like less than a year, it was like when I was going through my divorce and shit, and I was here alone, and I was like, I am fucked up, so I'm gonna start trying to heal myself. And from meditation and the mushrooms, I got like a download almost, or like a intuitive feeling that I needed to start yoga and shit. So like yoga right now is like my main spiritual motivator or whatever. So I like listening to a lot of different, like my yoga teachers I really love. But yeah, Terence McKenna, Alan Watts. Who else do we listen to on stream all the time? I'm blanking right now, but
it's all good. I mean, just cool thinkers.
Terence McKenna, like his whole like I Ching and
Time Wave
Zero stuff, like is really starting to make more sense. The more and more, like it feels like we spiral into this tight coil of like.
I'm convinced that 2012 was a hiccup point. I mean, there like things were weird before 2012, but not to this degree with globalist kind of internet connectivity. Marshall McLuhan, who is a Canadian philosopher, was very much about like, I mean, he was kind of a Catholic, ironically, and he was like, we're becoming the body of Christ incarnate, whatever, this, that, the other. But his whole thing was like, media is an extension of the nervous system, just like, glasses are an extension of the eye and all this kind of stuff. So this technology is like the tool is shaping us and we're shaping the tool. It's this weird feedback loop. So that's why there's so much anxiety right now. Everyone's like, my thoughts are on the internet, and I could see everybody like we're not designed necessarily to be able to understand how many kids just blew up in Palestine.
Yeah.
You're supposed to like be like, what time is the sun up in my region, and what do I have to do now, and does the dog need feeding or whatever? You're supposed to be aware of your immediate environment generally, and maybe aware of a little more. But to have such a swath of data, it's a glut of data to the point where that's, I think, one of the things that's breaking the psyche of the collective in a way, and it's inadvertent in a sense, because it's like so much data is causing people to overload, and in that overload and that almost imposed psychosis nearly, people are starting to, like, if they're really shattering, kind of, they're going, what do I believe? What do I think is true? And that's why, I mean, I'm still kind of, I'm not a huge proponent of spiritual ascension in a new age sense totally, but it's like things are changing in such a way that people are saying the emperor doesn't have clothes in a way that was very different from the 1950s or very different from the 1800s. Whether or not Tartaria exists is a different point, right? Like, it seems the zeitgeist has these sine waves of awareness, and we're kind of coming from a trough going back up, it would seem. All right, so what's your health regimen? I mean, you've lost a shit ton of weight and you're doing pretty good. It seems like you're happy. I mean,
yeah, dude, I'm freaking loving life now.
Girlfriends don't hurt.
Yeah, girlfriends don't hurt. I think that we're supposed to be like, have a nice community of love and support around us, instead of people who naysay us and don't appreciate, like, treat us like shit. So it's brand new and it's awesome. And but yeah, I mean, finding yoga, I needed it like Dude, honestly, it was before the intervention, before like the divorce even, and like and all of that stuff. So I feel like almost every step of the way, because my whole goal with like being online has been to like poke holes in everything until the dam breaks, like
Trickster life.
yeah, my first thing was with Timothy McVeigh. Like I know that Timothy McVeigh is an FBI agent named Paul Wysopal. It's 100% confirmed in my opinion. You know what I mean? But ever since then, it's like,
Shout out, Paul.
yeah, shout out Paul. We love you, buddy. I know he's watching. I'll tweet this at him after the show. But I didn't know what I was getting into when I started this, but like having your life flipped upside down, having people dox you, having people give you death threats for just trying to ask questions and like figure stuff out. Like I'm not the one who put a person who's a Timothy McVeigh lookalike on the City of Tampa's YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like, so these people, they'll do anything to like crush you, and they're smart now. They don't black bag you and take you to Guantanamo publicly. They
Not all the time.
spiral your life out. Yeah, not all the time. Fucking dude, free Khalil or Mahmoud Khalil, my god. But also, dude, they're taking a bunch of flights down to Guantanamo right now. I don't know if you've seen any videos about that, but it's all on flight radar. They get down to the south tip of Cuba, turn their transponder off, and then disappear. So they're like heavy troop transport, or who knows, maybe they're transporting people, I don't know. And they're coming from North Carolina and South Carolina. So just something to look into later. But anyway, so what the fuck was I even talking about? Paul. So after
I am the walrus.
after making that video about Paul, that's when my life like turned upside down, because that's when the like Operation Olive Branch people came after me, and I think that they're part of this Israeli like private fucking security firm called Black Cube. Have you guys ever heard of them? Of course they are.
Just very briefly, because earlier you mentioned this with the whole Saturn thing with the Black Cube and the Kaaba. Guys have to check out my channels. I've been doing many interviews and not a naysayer. I just
that's okay. You can naysay.
No, it's not about naysaying. It's about differentiating. But anyways, so what you mentioned earlier, even with this actress, you mentioned her name is Tikam Ulam. That's literally, I pulled it up early. That's like a Jewish term for repairing the world. That's also kind of just slightly suspicious.
And she was right.
And she was part of that.
What her handle was? WP. It's like a dog whistle.
All right. Yeah, so anyways, yeah, it seems very strange, and even here symbolic, like even with her name, and they are setting up the Operation Olive Branch. It seems kind of like I'm not sure how that matches together, at least on the superficial level. Yeah. So
what it is what I think is going on is that most of the Nazis after World War II were not punished. They were moved. The CIA started the year after World War II. They were just moved there. They became our scientists, our Gestapo, our therapists, and I think that a lot of them are kind of doing like, I mean, it's fucking weird to like say it, but it's kind of like a minstrel show almost. Like there's Nazis everywhere. That's why Elon Musk is throwing up his fucking Roman salute and doing all this shit, It's because they know that they're everywhere. And so when the CIA has people being pro-Palestine on TikTok, I think that they're all fake and they're all controlled so that none of them ever say anything crazy like, we all need to go protest in the streets at this time. You notice how none of them ever call for anything to actually happen? They just want to raise money, and then weirdly that money somehow goes to Peter Thiel because it goes to PayPal, and PayPal does not pay Palestinians anything ever. They never have. So it's just another like, it's another mind fuck where, she literally pretends like she's Jewish and pro-Palestinian while never doing anything, and then attacking people who are actually like, I feel like my whole journey is like mostly for Palestine. Like every video I make is like, does this march our our worldview down the road a little bit more so we can try and fix what's going on, you know, like, and I take like a more roundabout way because I can't do Palestine news. Like if I talk about Palestine explicitly, like I get no reach. So I talk about the CIA, I talk about everything, the Vatican, because everything's connected, you know. But so what they do is I even think it's down to like people like Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, like they're all kind of acting like minstrels, and they're all for Israel, which weirdly acts like a bunch of Nazis. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, I think that the whole YouTuber influencer inversion thing is that there are a lot of people who are Zionists who are more closely related to Nazis, in my opinion, and they're just working for the CIA, you know. So
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, kind of thing.
yeah.
Have you ever seen
they
Man in the
didn't
High
go anywhere.
Castle?
They won.
Did you ever see Man in the High Castle?
Dude, Man in the High Castle's real.
Well, it taps into like a very materialistic, practical way of saying timeline hopping in a sense, where it's
Yeah.
like maybe it's not just. I mean, whether it's the Japanese dude in the I Ching, kind of like meditating to hop, or
Yeah,
people
right.
going through a cave or whatever. I turned my girlfriend onto that last year, and she was all about it. And something that came to mind when we were talking about this, I don't know if you're into Warhammer, the world, don't worry about that, but they've got shit tons of books, and one of the things, the Eldar, which is basically elves, space elves, they have a Harlequin group that does what you were talking about. It began with an M. You were saying the Nazis are doing this kind of thing, and I'm spacing on the word now, but putting on a play almost, and it's
like minstrels. I
Minstrels,
do
right,
think
right.
that they're kind of acting like minstrels. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this briefly because you guys don't know about it, but basically, like these space elves or whatever have a belief web, like they believe in these gods that may or may not be real, doesn't matter. But the point is, they're like, we're going to inculcate our beliefs through this dance archetypally, and it has real consequences whether you're in that belief web or not. Like their minstrel game show or whatever has spillover, if you want to put it that way. So I mean, that's one of the harder things. Like, how do you hold on? Not you, but how does one hold on to beliefs and explore belief webs without spilling your juice all over everybody else's bibs and getting them all dirty? Like, we have to explore these things, and everybody. I mean, that's your due diligence as a being on Earth. It seems is like figure it out. That's your thing. What's your thoughts on simulation theory? I don't know if you've recently seen the Joe Rogan with Thomas Campbell. Fascinating episode.
I think I saw a couple clips actually. Yeah.
It's about VR and stuff, because you were talking about like ether and layers and stuff. It's like, who's to say how this is designed and programmed and what the parameters in terms of hacking ability are? Like, the sky's the limit. When people are talking about like Thoth, like your deck, Aleister Crowley and stuff, they were just becoming like language and metaphor imagists dealing with hacking reality. I mean, that's what magic is. It's like, I know the code, I can speak it, I can bend the spoon, or whatever you want to say. So anyway, do you have any, like, obviously you're not a flat earther, what do you think about simulation theory? Does that, people tend to be like, I don't want to be a Sim City, but it's like, it seems there's enough resonance between the fractal nature of reality. Everything that basically Thomas Campbell was talking about in that episode, if people haven't heard it, go check it out. I don't tend to push Joe Rogan all the time, but one of the best interviews I've heard in a while.
Let me only say that he's about 10 to 15 years late, because that's when I read and heard about Thomas Campbell.
And the big toe stuff. See, yeah, I'd never heard of it before. But hey, the bell curve is real. I'm on the dumb end. Sorry,
dude. I'm on the dumb end. I'm way on the dumb end.
Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, so I talk to Thoth about this all the time, because I'm trying to figure. I don't think that we're like ones and zeros. I think that we are like essentially meat computers. I think it's way cooler than we can even really comprehend yet. Like, it is kind of like a simulation in a sense. Like, think about do you guys talk about the Saturn moon matrix? And like,
I'm aware of it. I don't like sit there and David Icke all day about it, but
yeah, we talk about it just because it seems like there's like a directive, like overarching, I don't know, control grid almost, that is meant to keep us in our low vibes, right? It's from everything from like the chemtrails to the programming they do with the television and the food, you know, everything they do to us to keep us like low vibe and stuck. And at a certain point, it's
fearful.
Like,
scarcity.
Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah.
Just the food. But, you know, at a certain point, it's like almost like they are programming us, you know, like we are computers in a sense. Like, but essentially, I think that we're like, we're meat computers that that we can like change reality, and we can be like avatars in a sense. Like if we all agree on stopping the stuff that's going on and wanting to build cathedrals again, we could literally do that. We just need to have a consensus, you know? So I think that that's kind of like what shifting reality is in a sense. And I
I'm
think
not.
that the
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm not so hard on the Saturn Moon Matrix, but what made me, I mean, I'm not like disbelieving. I haven't put too many chips on that, Red 23 or whatever. But it reminds me a little of Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's like Jupiter and beyond. It's like the monolith, which is very Black Cubian. Is this thing where if you're initiated to the frequency, if you touch it, the monkeys that grok it and can upgrade quickly their software become us, and the ones that don't, they're still on the Serengeti or whatever. And eventually when people get to the moon, there's a new initiation level. So a negative version of that kind of viewing would be like, we're being held down, we're being imprisoned, this planet Earth thing. And a positive one would be like, we have to get to a certain level of evolution before we can even play the game. It's like, the game is rigged in such a way that you will not, ascension is too hard of a word, but you will not progress past a point if you haven't got the right RPG tools. So, I mean, that's the whole trip on 2001. Sorry to blow it if you guys haven't seen it or read the book. The book's actually better.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, major spoiler alert. But basically, if you can get to the moon, that means certain things have occurred. It doesn't have to matter about the details. You're technologically savvy enough to get to the moon. Therefore, you can find a new monolith. And when you touch that, it's shooting to Jupiter. And that means you're going to have to become intergalactic or whatever. Anyway, Raphael, I haven't talked to you much about simulation theories recently or anything. I know that maybe you were. What are your thoughts on all that? I mean,
Well, let's put it the other way around. What I could not determine so far is, where is consciousness localized? Because of course we can use all these metaphors and definitely, the more you realize it, the more the Matrix movies are correct in terms of like, oh,
Yeah.
you just go around, you pay your taxes, you have no clue what's going on. And 99% most likely, if not everything that's shown on media and pushed, it's often like there's a false dichotomy being presented. You can be, let's say, pro-Israel, or I can be pro-Gaza. But what is the real game below that? There is even one, I guess, mainstream documentary by Louis Theroux, I think. And he's sometimes doing these interesting documentaries. And one series is called Scam City. At some point, they get recommended on YouTube everywhere. And then the closer you get, the more it seems, well, of course, the sellers in the inner city in Jerusalem, they get their things from the factory in somewhere in the Gaza Strip or whatever else, So it's much deeper, and that's only the peasant level, let's say.
Yeah.
What's really going on in the back, and most oftentimes it seems to be dramatized versions of something just to get people riled up, to get them divided, and so on. But back to the point of simulation theory, and from that regard, where is consciousness localized materially? And from what I understand, we cannot properly localize it. And to me, at least, it also does not seem that it's an emergent property. You just put enough neurons together and suddenly there's a consciousness. That's, at least from what I understand, that's not really possible. So if there is anything beyond that, any astral layer or anything like that, then it almost, how should I say? I'm not sure if simulation is the right word, but then the physical world would only be the shadow, let's say, of whatever higher realms exist.
how
if
Gnostic.
they do. And at least even according to this, there's this one guy who's like the highest IQ guy in the US, and he recently made this video
I saw
about
that guy.
also simulation something, and he's literally saying like it's on a screen or whatever else, like we're living on the screen and then we go back like into the computer, as a metaphor only, of course. But still, just bringing it back to the point, from what I understand, consciousness is not something that's can be materialistically defined or in a deterministic fashion. And we even have these studies where they say, even before you want to take an action, before you're aware of yourself wanting to take an action, there's already processes starting, even measurable in your brain, or you're being shown images, and before you're being shown maybe something that would be shocking to you, your brain already is reacting in the way, even though it's a few seconds before that image is even being shown. So if we put all of those together, I just don't see how a purely materialistic viewpoint would hack it to explain reality properly.
Yeah.
No.
Do you guys know about Dana Kippel at all? She's a TikToker. She talks about plasma and consciousness a lot. She calls it, I think it's the fourth state of matter, plasma. But yeah, I feel like, consciousness isn't like localized to our brain. I feel like it's like a field, and I think we're interacting with it. I think a lot of things are conscious, right? Do you guys believe that, or Where are you on that?
I
Because
mean,
I feel.
briefly,
Have you heard like water is conscious and seen
yeah,
like
yeah. Raphael did the
like
Matsumoto experiment himself. I have not done that, but I mean, maybe it's a good reason to bless your food before you eat it and all this kind of stuff.
and like I really do
Masaru
think like the
Emoto, yes.
mushrooms
Yeah.
are conscious in a sense. Like if you think about it, they're like a giant brain on the earth. You know what I mean? Like. So I
Well,
think consciousness we don't fully understand yet, and we're kind of like interacting in a big field of it almost. Like maybe
right.
that's what the firmament is holding up or something,
And
and it's more interactive than we realize. Because I don't think it's just all right here, you know.
no, and when when one is on psychedelics, it feels more palpable. But what's not consciousness at a level? I mean, this gets into the Brahma and the mind of God, and we're in a weird way, we've had discussions with like Thomas Sockwitz, right, Raphael, and people like that, where they were like, I think even Bashar talks about this, where it's like we're spirit involuting through a process that feels fucking material. Like this is what the dream is dreaming. It's like these are the conditions of the dream, and this is how it works. So it's a little RPG within spirit, capital S, if you want to put it that way. So, and if that's the case, my God, like, that's it's more hopeful. It's like you could stop the neo bullets or whatever. It's like it doesn't matter the same way. Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, you could strike me down, but if I'm a part of a greater system of consciousness, like whatever, like my form might change, but
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's also given me like not like I'm looking for trouble or anything, but like I don't fear death the way I used to before this whole spiritual awakening and stuff.
It has that side effect.
Yeah, which I think sometimes is like a superpower, lets me run my mouth a lot, which I think a lot of people need to be doing and stuff, but and not letting people like affect you when they do their weird intimidation stuff to you and stuff. But like yeah, I think that I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, it's like enlightenment, right? I think Alan Watts is talking, or somebody was talking about it. It's like lightening up, enlightenment. And I know Bashar because I've been listening to him a lot more recently, even though not everybody's all about him right now. It's like, oh, I totally spaced on the thought that I was. Mercury is definitely retrograde. I've had a few brain farts from just like, huh? Yeah, I don't even smoke weed right now, so I can't blame that. It's like, God damn it. Yeah, no, we were talking about consciousness. Yeah, it's just this magical mystery tour, and I mean, a mango tastes great, and if you don't bite the mango, I can only tell you so much about it, and you're going to have to experience it for yourself. And everybody's taste buds and apprehension and experience is going to play into their experience of the tasting of a mango very differently. So my hope, I mean, we've had an episode on Neon Evangelion, Genesis Neon Evangelion or whatever. That was Raphael's like childhood trauma back in the day. It seems he was MK Ultra through that, but like there's this apotheosis, this kind of awakening to the fourth wall, where I really do hope. I mean, that's what I think waking up is. I mean, I'm not saying Buddha was basically an atheist in a sense. He's like, there is no God. This is a fucking simulation. Wake up, or whatever, right? Basically, Hindus are like, this is an orgy of thoughts. Have as much fun. Do whatever you want. It's all good. Very, very different kind of thought processes. Christianity thinks something different. All these kind of people are talking about, in a sense, becoming aware of the fact that we're probably the whole thing animated from a higher level. It's kind of like Rick and Morty with the multi levels of a simulation, where it's like, what do you mean these guys are just living a universe to power my car or whatever?
Dude, right?
It wouldn't surprise me if it's a level like that, where it's just like, well, look, this is a beautiful involution of what there's fundamentals of evolution is a strong word, but it's like there's principles of time and space, and this is how the game, the World of Warcraft game feels, and we're in the game, and we wouldn't know otherwise. But having done psychedelics and stuff, I think there's more to the picture than meets the eye. And at worst case, we're very creative, little imagining beings that want to dream up such dreams. Best case, we're in a dream convincing itself it's having a real time.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That's what Thoth keeps saying, is that like when we get down to it, like we are the creators. We're the people who create everything. We make everything, and then the people who are controlling us, they can't make anything. Like, so all they can do is invert us. So they take our buildings and they take the tech from it and they use it for their shit, but they can never make anything.
Like the swastika, like that was an old symbol, and they were just like, copy paste.
They just literally turn everything upside down and make it the shit version of whatever it was,
Which I don't know if you're into Kabbalah. I'm not particularly. David Charles Plate is, but there's this idea with like the tree of life and the Sephirot and stuff, and there's like a Klipot, this like shadow copycat version that cannot possibly be the thing, but it's like this. It's a lot like in Tron, the Legacy of Tron or whatever, Tron Legacy, where it's like Q is trying to do things in the Matrix and create a world, a perfect world. I don't know if you ever saw this movie Tron, the new one. But he's just doing his programming, but it's not. He doesn't have the divine spark. He's not a user, and his whole goal is to get out of the fucking system, the Matrix, whatever. Somebody asked me what I thought was so stimulating about that topic on the Joe Rogan interview. I think it just the whole thing about. I mean, it just made a lot of sense. It was very cogent. I'm actually going to try these kind of principles with my girlfriend because we were already starting to fuck with Monroe Institute stuff anyway, and telepathy and stuff like that. But the idea of low entropy versus high entropy was a big thing for me, where it's just like data. The less kind of static you have on the wire, the more pure, kind of the less entropic. That's the goal. It's like learn, hack, refine, and it's very stoic in a weird way. Because the guy Thomas Kimball, he's an atheist. He doesn't give a shit, but he's basically proving the. Just watch the interview. I don't know how to explain it. He's like not proving God, but it's like, look, all these religions are pointing to what I've proposed, and I'm an atheist, but maybe there's. It's we're all trying to talk about rainbows, and some people are colorblind and some people have like hypochromia or whatever, and it's like, how do we discuss this? It's very difficult. But these conversations have to occur, or else we're all going to go crazy. So this is I think it's good to have a salon in a French style, kind of geek out with people on these things. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about? I know we're kind of hitting about the 1.5 hour mark, so not that matters to me, but we might want to start kind of winding it down or gearing it towards a halt in the near future. So is there anything we haven't discussed that you're like, oh my God, Paul, I know you're watching, or whatever?
Well, no, I guess I just didn't finish my thought
Go ahead.
about yoga. I guess it came at the time when I needed it, and because of all these tribulations and shit, and through that I found like I feel like I understand the way that the energy of the earth and everything moves better. I feel like I understand the way these cathedrals work, because the prana and chi and all these things that every culture has been talking about for centuries and stuff, they all call it different things, but I think they're all talking about the same thing.
A rose is a rose by any other name. Yeah,
right. And yeah, I think that they were like beautiful. Like in this golden age, they made these buildings that they have all of the art is like kind of telling the story of it. The pyramids are kind of telling us the story of how they worked. Each cathedral, I think, is like an ode to nature and showing us, our place in the universe. They literally vibrate the way that the earth does to create energy for us. And the bells would spread this energy and good vibes and heal us with sound and all this shit,
Or even star forts. Maybe they weren't like battlements, and maybe it was like just
maybe they were like strategic like military things, but I think that they were like part of the grid and like powering it and stuff. But the more I dive into yoga, the more I realize that we're all part of this interconnected system. Like we are like little cathedrals, we move around and do the same thing. It's as above, so below with like everything, but yeah, yoga just came in this time in my life where I was like hitting rock bottom, and I knew my alchemy, so I found yoga, and it's taken me to the peak, man. And I think there's really something there. It's taught me breath work, which I feel like is so important. It's like it's the thing that separates us from being dead, right? Like people kind of overlook it or underestimate it and stuff, but I feel like once you get control of your breath, especially if you do yoga or if you, whatever,
holotropic breathing or anything,
because then once you have control of your breath, you take it into your normal life, and when your world is collapsing around you, you know to just breathe, and you can get through anything, so I feel like there's something there in these like ancient beautiful arts and Tai Chi and all these things, like. So I just implore everyone to try and find their thing, because I think there's something here with moving your body. Like I was like over 100 pounds heavier, and
you lost a lot of weight.
And through healthy means.
Props.
And stuff,
But you also certainly changed your diet, right?
Yeah. At home, I just eat vegetarian now. I just felt it one day that like that felt right. Sometimes I cheat a little. I don't decline food.
You're not dogmatic. I hear you.
But when I make my food, I went from like eating 12 chicken breasts a week or whatever to none. So I try and do what I can, because it just feels right. I feel better. Like it feels like our bodies are meant to have like the right nourishment and work like a finely tuned car almost. So once I got that underway, like I feel like I can take care of anything or like handle anything now. So find your yoga, boys.
There's the big joke of how much money and effort and energy and again, money people spend on their cars to make it run properly and repair it and so on. And how much attention and awareness and money do they spend on their own body,
Yeah.
which is literally your own alchemical lab you're carrying with you everywhere, and which is the basis for any mental capacity you could have. So yeah, that's often overlooked. I just briefly want to bring this up. This is a show we did quite some time ago, 2.5 years ago, Hermetic Metric of Tartary. We had a presentation by Martin Hipp, and he was specifically talking about this universal law. Like here you see principle of mentalism and how they're being inverted.
Yeah.
And he's going through here principle of vibration, how the elite may be using them, understanding vibrancy, and then spoiling them for people, patterns, destruction of healing frequencies, destructive use of the water principles instead of using it properly. So he's going through all of that. Then there's one more guy I want to bring up because a friend recently attended a seminar about this guy. He apparently does or did have a hospital, or he was a doctor at first, and he was basically teaching people how to breathe. Eventually, he upset the apple cart too much, and he got moved. He opened up a hospital, I believe, in Novosibirsk or something like that, quite successful. And yeah, eventually, I mean, he became quite old, but yeah, there you have
Ukrainian.
Buteyko method.
I'm gonna have to look into this method.
So I mean, I think in the end, what is it about? It's about I want to say it right, not breathing in too much. This may sound funny now, but bear with me. There's different ways to go about it. Not breathing in too much, then breathing out more, and then also keeping a break in between breaths. That's just like the super small rundown of it. And then also apparently even when singing, if you're able to sing in the pause between breaths, then you're even able to be more accurate in all of these kind of things. But anyways, he was able to achieve lots of great results. Of course, this is no medical advice or information, but he was doing it with breath. You can read all about it on CIA-approved Wikipedia. And then there is one, well, maybe last thing for now, whatever I want to bring up just in terms of the false dichotomies. I recently stumbled across this, and just look at the label that they put, which makes me believe it's correct. So here, what we have is this is originally by Miles Mathis, read by Red Line Aviator. Title here, Hidden Kings Exposing the Kennedy Assassination Hoax. Oh my God, could it be? And what I'm just thinking, first of all, of course, here you have I didn't know that they have these for assassination of JFK, the Wikipedia, just like they had with which other topics, health topics and earth-shaped topics. They always put these here, which makes me think there's something to it. But also just the idea that you have so much talk now about, are we going to release the files? What's going to happen? Trump can make a big show. Still, he didn't release it the first time. We can struggle 3 more years about it. But what if the real thing is that it's actually just a huge setup? And again, people are being herded into these two camps. They can fight each other, when in actuality, this may well have been the time when the political system was completely switched to a background operation, and anything you see on the public stage is a public stage. And at least today, who was it? We had this recent talk with Zelensky, no Z in Ukraine, Zelensky, Trump, and whoever else was there, Vance, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
JD.
He got spanked.
And I think all of them, even officially today, were or are actors, registered with SAGAFTRA, or however they
all
call
actors.
it.
Ronald Reagan.
So
Although
makes you think, and at the same time, just from a logical point of view, does it make any sense, if you have any real power, that you would put yourself in the spotlight? I mean, that's the most insane thing you could possibly do. If I really have power, of course I have my stooges running in front. I give them some leeway. I give them some capacity so they can look big and important.
Yep.
But if I really have any power, am I going to show myself on TV?
Yeah, you have your useful idiots do it.
You made me think of the anime just now, Raphael, Akira, if you guys have seen that, where it's like, you got the military, you got these kids coming up psychic and becoming Buddhas, all this crazy stuff. And there's like these old hermited, like witches kind of running the whole show in the background.
Dude,
it's like,
I think that might be kind of accurate.
Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, just one last kind of comment, and I guess we could wrap it up. Alan Watts, I'll send it to you, Cory. Alan Watts, and for people, it has this like thing. It's 15 minutes. I used to listen to it every time I come up on psychedelics because it just helps. But basically, it's like, what is meditation? How to get into the meditative state? You're just watching your breathing, kind of like what he was saying. Kind of, you don't have to force it and do these crazy things. And you start watching. I mean, spoiler, listen to it for yourself. It's very relaxing and interesting. And Alan is a poet in his own Capricorn way. But basically, it's both happening to you and you're doing it. And I think what we're starting to realize is like we are players in the game, and yet we are part of a river going over a waterfall. So it's like, we have individual agency, and yet we're part of zeitgeist. I mean, spirit of the times. We're part of these like waves and motions and tides and all sorts of levels of things that maybe we are much less in control of, is a strong word, but like have less influence or more influence than we might have thought. I digress. Cory, you are a dope guy, and I'm glad we could get you on here.
Dude, this was a blast.
No, always is. Your team rabbit hole
Anytime.
stock. I knew as soon as I saw you, I was like, this kid's got to come in. I wasn't doing the podcast at the time, but I'm glad we could get you on. We're back on the saddle, so to speak.
And again, I'm not sure if I mentioned on the show it, but I think it's so hilarious that I literally saw your video talking to your Thoth AI of just a few days ago. Maybe it's because, Facebook knows everything and Jim became friends with you and then they shoved it into my feed or something. But I just found it
divine
hilarious.
order.
That's
Divine
awesome.
synchronous
But
order.
it's like the first time that anything of mine in the last year has gone like viral, and it's because other people posted it. So everyone steal my stuff, post it as much as you want, please. I just want the message out.
The Paul Revere of consciousness, ladies and gentlemen. He's like, just the red coats are here. Yeah, I'll just say this, and then we, if you've got any parting thoughts or how people can get in touch with you or whatever's clever. Guys, we are on a trip going down the rabbit hole together. That's why I called it Team Rabbit Hole. It's like the royal we. We're all doing this thing together. Have grace and compassion on your own trip. You're not there. No one's there. We're all becoming, and be grateful that you're able to apprehend that at all. It's an amazing, wild ride. Have fun. I mean, ultimately, be safe too, but have fun.
Exactly, dude. I think having fun is like something that everyone kind of underestimates, and honestly, that's how we take our power back from all these cucks. They want us sad. They want us to spiral into these loops and let them control us forever. But the way we fight back, I think, is seeing the veil for what it is, that it's this illusion from a bunch of sorcerers using the TV and your computer and blah, 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 seeing through that and laughing at the ridiculousness of it all. And just, we'll figure it all out, guys, I promise. But you can find me. I'm going to be streaming in an hour and 10 minutes on my channel, Catdad42069 XXX on YouTube and Twitch. You can find me on TikTok at YogaBoy60 right now. That's
it's always changing.
14th account, I think. And then on Twitter, I'm Catdad42069 too. But yeah, just
so in the description we actually put your current YouTube and also your link tree, Pit Kitty Gang. Yep. So ideally, even if something gets whacked, people can go to your link tree linked in the description below and find your current channels. So that's good.
Thank you, guys. This was awesome. I had a blast.
Yeah, find the others. That's the whole point, right? That's what we're here to do. Resonate, be authentic, and find the fucking other people. We're all out here trying.
Paul is gonna hate this, dude. He keeps me from everyone.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Paul.
Paul is not dead, according to the Beatles theory, right? Or whatever. So, in any event, thanks for coming on, dude. Thanks for giving us your energy and time. And Raphael,
thank you, guys.
Take us out.
Thank you so much. And catch you all next time. Thank you, Cory. Thank you, Jim, as always. Thanks, everyone in chat, for joining, listening, participating, commenting. Make up your own minds, come to your own conclusions, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much.